I'm just going to ask you a couple random questions. Okay.
This makes me uncomfortable.
If you could choose your name, what would it be and why?
This is going to be a lame response, but I like my name.
You like your name?
I would choose my name again.
My alter ego is Roxy.
Mm-hmm.
I actually went on a date with a guy one time and I told him my name was Roxy. Even had my friends play along. I felt really bad.
My sister has an alter ego like that. The alter ego's name is strikingly similar to her name. But she gets this weird look in her eye. It's, it can be quite strange, as her kids will tell you.
I probably know the answer to this one, but what TV show would you want to be in? I thought this was an easy one.
I would probably say like Ted Lasso.
Okay, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Well, I'm a Trekkie, so Star Wars or Star Trek. Star Trek was
obviously not a good Trekkie.
Yeah, I know, not a good Trekkie. Andor season 2 kind of had me over on the dark side of things there for a while.
Oh shoot. All right, we'll do one more. No, we've covered that one already. Hold on.
In the last 2 questions we've already covered. Okay.
No, we've covered that one in previous episodes.
Oh, I see.
It was do you have a secret talent?
We never did do that video out in the parking lot of me demonstrating my secret talent.
I found one. There's one of you. There's an existing one of you balancing the GoPro on your chin.
Oh no. From the GoPro's perspective?
Yep.
Oh. This is why you don't work for a video company, folks. Everything's on camera.
We used it in a vlog many moons ago, so I found it and sent it to Merlin to edit in.
I bet that is hilarious.
It's really funny. And you're literally saying, I'm balancing a GoPro on my chin.
Oh.
All right. If you had a pet parrot, what would you teach it to say?
I don't have a good answer. Probably something like live long and prosper, probably.
Yeah.
Yep. You?
Shut the front door. Wash your hands. All the things that I tell my kids over and over and over and over again, so I don't have to do it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty smart. Yeah.
Well, because the newest thing is shut the front door because my husband decided that we didn't need a screen or a front door anymore or a screen door, a storm door, whatever those are called, because he painted the front door and it looks really good, but our storm door covered basically the front of it and he didn't like that, so he just took it off. So now we just have an open, so when the kids open the door, I don't have the storm door flapping, so now it's just open to everyone. So if they don't close it, then
I'm guessing a lot of younger people don't even know about storm windows and storm doors.
Probably not, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm quick poll of the room. A couple people here. Anybody know what storm windows? Yep. Our Italian friend has not.
Basically, it's like a door on the front of your door, and it's usually glass and like aluminum or metal.
Protects your
door.
We used to do the same thing with windows where every spring, typically, I think they'd get out these windows from storage and hang them over the existing windows so that if a storm came, your actual windows are protected. Mm-hmm. So a lot of older houses, even in the city, if you go up in their attic, there's a whole stack of old windows.
Yeah.
Yep.
And some people just leave them on all the time. But if you have newer windows, they don't do that anymore because they're double pane.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Ask a Kansan.
Our podcast where we talk to Kansans about their lives and about the things that make them proud to be a Kansan.
Yes. So we had an amazing opportunity to have Alissa I'm blanking on her last name.
Menke.
Alissa Menke I always just call her Alissa. I always forget that she has a last name because she's just the only Alissa. But she is the founder and chief digital strategist for Cohort Digital. They are out of Topeka, and they do digital distribution for just about anything.
Mm-hmm. And Alissa is very well connected in the Topeka, Kansas City area. And yeah, she just talked a little bit about technology, a little bit about, community building in the 21st century.
Mm-hmm. And strategies on distribution for businesses, how AI plays into that. So we talked about a lot of various topics with her. And so we hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello.
We match.
Oh
my gosh, we uncannily match.
I took a lighter shade of black.
That's true.
All right.
That's funny. Yeah, welcome.
I went with
Here,
a
have a
greener
seat.
shade of black.
A greener
Sorry,
shade of
it's
black.
Green.
You're also the only one that has socks on. Are your toes painted?
It's
Because ours aren't.
Yeah, this is crazy. Maybe I'm the guest on this podcast.
Maybe you are.
Maybe this should be like a new thing. You just invite people to.
Maybe.
There you go.
Sorry.
It's okay.
You're kind of all the way out there. Feel free to adjust as needed.
You can turn it just
Yeah,
a
and you
little
can turn
bit.
it too. Oh, I'm already sliding in the cushion too.
Yeah, it's a classic problem.
I'll try to not hit
Oh, it's okay. I hit mine almost every episode.
Mm-hmm.
How's it going?
Good.
Your drive was already interesting.
Yeah, at the country living problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Ask a Kansan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So usually we have our guests, we ask them to kind of introduce themselves, but I did something different just because we know you very well.
Oh, okay.
So I asked ChatGPT
Oh,
to come up with your bio.
yeah, great. I'm so excited. Tell me.
So Alissa is the founder and chief digital strategist of Cohort Digital, a digital marketing firm based in Topeka, Kansas, established in March 2020. Is that correct?
So far,
Okay.
it's nailing it.
Cohort Digital specializes in digital media placement, optimization, and reporting across various platforms, including search ads, social media, display, and video advertising. We're going.
Yep.
In 2023, the firm managed over $2 million in online ad placements, demonstrating its significant presence in the digital marketing landscape.
Sounds great.
Yeah, sounds great.
ChatGPT.
Alyssa's journey into digital marketing began during the early expansion of Facebook beyond college campuses. As social media platforms evolved, she transitioned from focusing on organic strategies to emphasizing paid social advertising and comprehensive digital marketing approaches. Her expertise encompasses major platforms such as Facebook, TikTok, Google, and YouTube.
Yeah.
That was from Go Topeka. I did cite its sources.
That's what I was going to say is, you know what? This makes me feel like my search engine optimization must be like
It must be
on
working.
par right now because so far, all great.
All great. All right, last paragraph. Beyond her professional endeavors, Alissa is actively involved in her community. She serves as the treasurer on the board of directors of for Arts Connect, a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting the arts in Topeka. Additionally, she has contributed her knowledge as a speaker at events like the Kansas Opioid and Stimulant Conference, where she discussed leveraging digital media for public awareness and prevention strategies.
Yeah, lot of speaking, lots of board setting, and then probably the thing that I don't talk about the most, but yet dominates the majority of my time, coaching kids sports stuff. Right? Like this year, I was like, I'm not going to coach.
Says every parent.
And I sat on the sidelines for about 3 practices, and my husband happened to take my daughter.
Yeah.
And she would come home. She's like, practice is no fun. It's so boring. And he looked over her. He's like, you know why? Because your coach doesn't have enough help. You need to let your mom get out there and help out. And so and she's like, oh, okay. And so now I'm helping again. And but yeah, we're between my husband and I, we've got at least 2 teams like all year with all sports. It's like, someone's got a coach. We both are very athletic. Let's do it.
Wow.
Kids are having fun.
Because where did you graduate from?
I went to Lebo High School.
Okay. But did you play basketball in college?
I played a year of volleyball at Cali.
Okay.
And then because I had been a year-round athlete basically my entire life, had hit a point where my legs were no longer cooperating. And at the age of, at that point I was probably 19, the athletic trainer was like, hey, I would really like to see you go in and get these like surgically broken and reset so that you don't go up for a block and come down and snap. Ugh. And I was like, or maybe I see what else there is in life. So I walked away from all sports for like 10 years. And now I look back and I kick myself like, maybe you should have just done that and like saw what could have happened. Because the first year of volleyball that I played, I loved. It was great. Yeah. And my sister is a college volleyball coach for University of St. Mary in Leavenworth. Wow. And every now and then she'll be like, you still have 3 years of eligibility. And I'm like, yes, me in my mid-40s, I'm totally going to keep up with those 19-year-olds.
There you go.
That's awesome. A movie that I want to make.
Yeah.
Of like someone who still has their eligibility and just goes back.
I mean, I was playing like pretty competitive level volleyball until about a year and a half ago.
Oh, really?
And then as I started having a lot of health issues that were not remotely related to volleyball like functionality, it was one of those where it was kind of like, it was already starting to get really difficult to sort of make time for my sports because the kids' stuff had filled up so much. But yeah, I walked away from it and I still sort of have that itch of like, maybe I'll get back out there. But yeah, volleyball and softball, I've pretty much played pretty competitively my whole life.
Man.
So in your digital ad buying, do you bring your competitive spirit to the?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I always talk to our clients about is it's like, that's the way that I'm driven, but that's the way that my entire team is driven. We want to do better than what we did last month. We want to figure out and be the ones that come to you and say like, hey, have you thought about this? There's this new thing. We'd love to try this new thing. Would you be open to that? And it's kind of this constant game to do better than we did, the last time. And I think that helps keep us really sharp. But I also think that if you didn't have that mentality, I don't know how long you would do great in our industry because digital is just constantly changing. And you have to be really willing to constantly, test the waters and expand and change. And I mean, based off of Google's announcements last week at the Google Marketing Live, it's like, buckle up, ladies. It's about to be a crazy, 12 months for the state of search. And I'm excited and I'm also a little like anxious because these things are coming, but you also don't completely know what that means or how it's going to work. But we've proven time and time again that the second we get access to it, we're going to go all in, figure it out, get our arms around it. We're going to, stub our toe here or there, figuring it out. That's part of it. But we're always really transparent about like, hey, there's this new thing that we want to try. We'd like to use a portion of your budget. You're going to be able to see very clearly what that investment did for you. I've had a few clients where we started in traditional search, and because of that sort of competitive, I want to see what we can do with this. We've almost got them entirely out of search and into other Google vehicles that we were able to track the conversions. They're converting at a higher level. Their cost per conversion is a lot lower. And it's that athlete mentality in the back of my mind that I think always pushes me to like, let's just try one more thing. Let's just try one more thing.
For maybe some listeners who have zero idea what you do and how you do it, can you explain kind of the different avenues? Like, what is Google search? What are these tools?
Show up in people's feeds and
from day to day?
Well, I'll even take it a step further back. When I explain to people what I do, what my team does, if you see an ad online, it was placed by someone like us. The only environment that we are not currently placing ads in is Amazon. Not so much that I don't think we could. It's just not been an opportunity that's made sense for any of our clients. But yeah, so any paid ads that are on any of the social media platforms, if you're doing a search on Google and it's changing now, right? So now you have that AI summary up top for a lot of searches. But below that, you're going to have a couple of, blue links that are sponsored ads. We develop the strategies that make sure that, based off of this search query, your brand can be up at the very top of those. Or sometimes we say, don't pay for the top placement. Second, third, you save money and you get just, you still will get enough clicks to make that a really great investment for you. But yeah, with this whole new search AI that's going to be coming out and more of like a chat GPT type interface, search is going to change a lot. And even the way that people use websites and whether websites are for people in the future is like, I'm excited about it and I want to know where it's going to go, but I'm also sort of like just trying to enjoy the ride, because otherwise it gets a little bit overwhelming of like the amount of change the internet's had. Like if you think about how far things have come since the COVID lockdown, right? Like that was when people really were like, hey, I can have a meeting online as my regular meeting place. Before that, we were still doing a ton of in-person stuff. And now we have clients that are there in Topeka that I have not seen in person for like purposes of a meeting in a couple of years, because it's like, well, then you don't have to travel and we don't have to travel. And, it's a little bit lower threshold to be like, I actually don't have an agenda for a meeting today. Do you want to cancel? We get that from clients all the time. Where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, no. Either we also don't have anything, or what we have, we can talk about through email. It's been really refreshing for me to see the things that I was doing like before COVID, like now my mom and dad are doing. And I don't know that they would have been doing that had they not sort of been pushed into it.
It's interesting. You strike me as a person who's tremendously community minded, but you're also tremendously digital. And so I think often we think of these things as kind of like, well, you're either online or you're community minded. Maybe I'm creating a false dichotomy there, but how do you do that? How do you manage both of those things?
Well, I think that I really try to tie the two together, right? So what I find is a lot of people in the community don't necessarily have the skill sets that I have or the experience that I have. And so being able to talk with them about how they can take the things they're doing and tap into online resources to help spread the word. But also being online only it's a really lonely place, right? And there's nothing that gets my husband more upset or me like just sort of like sad in my heart than to see my kids sit all day on the computer during the summer when I'm like, get outside, like go play something, go do something, go play with the kitties. Like there's so much to do that's not a screen.
So when we turn the internet off.
Yeah. While I am a very digitally aligned person, when I am outside of work, I'm really not. A couple of the gals on my team laugh at the fact that I have like the most simple Fitbit. It doesn't sync to anything. I don't track my workouts online. I try to intentionally keep a lot of that stuff very separate because it's my stuff. When we're doing a lot of volunteer work I do a lot of stuff for my kids' schools. I try to lend a hand with the things that really make sense, but being there in person beats just being like, hey, I'll, retweet this for you or whatever.
Is that a learned behavior of yours? Did you have a different relationship with technology that you had to get out of, or did you just kind of naturally fall into that approach?
I think that's just the way that as technology was really taking hold, I was very much an early adopter, and I still am that way. But what I found early in my career, when I let that sort of bleed outside into my personal life, is that then my personal life became very much my work life. And I was just having a conversation with my little ones the other day, because they didn't, so my youngest are 9 and 11. They didn't really know mom as kind of the workaholic agency gal that I was. And, it wasn't anything for me to work from 8 to 6 and then drive home. I get a quick bite to eat, make a Diet Pepsi because I drank way too much Diet Pepsi at the time. And then sit back down and work until I went to bed at 10 or 11. And my oldest sort of remembers that. But I kind of hit this point where I was getting really burnt out, and I wasn't doing enough stuff to sort of feed my soul. And I realized like that part's not feeding me when I let it bleed into my personal life. And so from that point, I really tried to like divide them as much as I could. It's getting to the point though where so much digital stuff really has a great opportunity to make my personal life more efficient, maybe in some ways a little more enriching, that I see a little bit of that starting to bleed in again, but I will continue to try to work to keep them as separate as I can.
I'm impressed. I'm not good at maintaining this. Yeah.
Gus, it comes with getting older.
When you say like feeding your soul and how that's actually kind of more gone into your professional life, can you give me a little background on your team and how you guys have been working with or striving to try to get some of your mental health clients and nonprofits that you work with?
Well, because of the experience that I went through, I loved my job at the agency. I still love my job. But I also, like I said, I got to that point where I was like on the brink of burnout several times. And especially as my oldest was young, every time I was at work, I felt so guilty that I was not being a great mom. And every time I was in like my mom phase of the day, I felt like I was not being a great employee. And it really hit me around the time of the pandemic when we're all locked at home and you've got a lot of time on your hands. Maybe I didn't need to put that kind of pressure on myself. And also maybe there was another way to agency, right? Like we had really been in sort of this, like, you have to put in the hours, you're sort of always on call. And when I founded Cohort Digital, I really did it with the thought that I don't want to be a workaholic mom. I want to set a great example for my kids that they can do something they love, but they can also be very present at home. And so I was very intentional that should not just be my experience, that should be my entire team's experience. And so if you look at our team, we're a bunch of moms and partners and daughters, and we've got all of these hats. And it's really important for me that they feel like they're able to honor those at the highest levels and not sacrifice their home life, because I'm like arbitrarily pushing something that, like, at the end of the day, a deadline's a deadline, but was that deadline really the deadline? Or was that something that I said like, hey, let's have this done by Friday when we really had a couple more days, right? So we try to have really transparent discussions, but it's really important to me that I kind of keep a pulse of where everyone's at, not just them, but like their family. I know everybody's kids. I know what's going on with their families. To the extent that they're willing to share, I touch base with every employee on the team once a week and really focus on them, because I don't want to burn people out and I don't want people to feel like they're having to choose. And I think that's allowed us to have a really great team that makes sure that the time we're putting in for our clients is like the very best of their ability at that time. And that they know that, for some folks, that's going to be 7 a.m. And for some, that's going to be 7 p.m. And for some, that's going to be 11 because the kids are in bed, and whatever works for their schedule. And I think that really rolls over and allows us to be really good partners for our mental health clients, because we've got a lot of people on our team. They're everyone's caregivers, right? Like in some capacity or another. I've got a licensed social worker on my team that has like a side practice where, she's helping victims of domestic violence and is like constantly working to try to make the world a better place. And I think that's one of the reasons why we connected so well with you guys is your mission is very similar. The execution is different, but like we really want to use what I feel like sometimes like pop culture and the media with, like the negative powers of being able to target people and it's so creepy. We really want to be able to use that stuff in the very best way possible.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a break and then I'm going to pick your brain a little bit more.
Yeah, awesome.
This episode is sponsored by Renaissance Cafe. Serving Northern Italian cuisine prepared with a fresh, contemporary influence, the Renaissance Cafe is one of Kansas's favorite restaurants. Whether you're planning a romantic dinner date, a family celebration, or an intimate meal with friends, the Renaissance provides a unique dining experience with an old-world atmosphere. Open Thursday through Saturday evenings, the Renaissance Cafe is located just south of Salina in Assyria, Kansas. Visit renaissancecafeassyria.com to book your reservation today.
Welcome back. So I had a question in my head and now I ultimately forgot it. So you bring creativity into your work because you're an artist.
Yeah.
And you have some of my favorite stories. I would like you to tell the audience how that creativity impacts your clients. So one of them is how you use the Chick-fil-A Facebook page to help a church.
Yeah. So again, digital, constantly changing. We'll go through and we sit down, we ask clients like this whole host of questions. We come back with this proposal that says like, hey, we think you should place, these many dollars in this particular avenue. Well, this church was trying to boost attendance to their Easter Sunday mass. And it was like, oh, okay, well, Facebook at that point in time, Facebook was still like the bread and butter for digital ads, especially if you didn't have a large budget. And we're like, okay, we can go like people that love Christ and people that love Christianity. And like you could do all this targeting based off of sort of religious affiliation, if you will. And so we put this proposal out, they approve it, and they're like, yes, this is going to be a great campaign. And then we go to launch it 2 weeks later, and literally all of those targeting capabilities are gone, right? Like this is at the front end of Facebook really cracking down on targeting because people could use it the wrong way, right? Like we were going to try to get it out in front of like people that would be very receptive to that message, but you could also use that to really breed hate and do things the wrong way, which obviously we would never want to take part in that. But then I was like, oh, hold the phone. What do we do? This entire plan is now blown. And so then you take a step back, and that's where this creativity comes into play, where you're like, okay, well, so what are other things that we could be like using to hit this same audience? And so we just had an internal brainstorm, and it was like, oh, okay, well, like, Chick-fil-A is not open on Sunday because they really believe in making sure that, there's family time and you can go to church. And so we went back to the client. We said, hey, here's what's happened. We explained the entire thing because that's the way we roll. We're going to be really transparent about it. We don't know how this is going to work. So we would like to take half of your Facebook budget and put it towards, people that are giant Chick-fil-A fans. And we would like to take half of your budget and target people that look like people that like your church's page, right? That's like a pretty safe bet. Yeah. And we're going to basically A/B test with this, half of the budget. And, we run our campaign and, of course we see the data, but we're not selling tickets to church mass. We hear back from the client. She's like, there were so many new families. It was this huge success. We were so excited. But when you look at the data, the Chick-fil-A targeting opportunity that we tested ended up being the strongest performer, right? So we were testing, one, did they click on the ad? Like, that's the easy thing. But then when they were going to the website, like, how much time did they spend? What type of content were they looking at? And it ended up working really well for us. And that's like the first in, I bet there's been a half dozen of those. Because, again, like Facebook, Google, I mean, basically across the board, they're just pulling those targeting restrictions back and back and back. And initially it was because government was telling them and the general public was saying like, hey, we don't need to be like targeted that way. I'm not comfortable with that. Now we're seeing some of that being re-released, which is sort of cool, but we also have the AI taking over where Facebook's trying to say like, well, you can't really target that way because what we really want you to do is take a more general approach and then just spend enough money so that our machine learning will figure out who your audience is. And it's like, okay, well, I've totally seen that work, but that's like a concept that works if you have a giant budget.
Right.
And like, sure, some people do, but a lot of people don't. Especially when you're talking about like, hey, we're trying to promote to one church service. It's like these things happen this one day. We don't have oodles and gobs of money. We also don't have all the time in the world, you know, and that kind of stuff just takes time for the machine learning to work. So I'm excited to see where some of this is going. You know, our industry has been dealing with machine learning for as long as we've been doing digital stuff, right? Like AI and machine learning have been part of that technology from the very beginning. But now that's encroaching where, you know, the sort of big power players in the digital space are trying to say like, oh no, we know how to do it better than you. And so we're testing that where we're saying like, okay, Google, show us what you got. And then, you know, putting some money towards like our team based off of, you know, what we know as Kansans, promoting something that's for a Kansas audience and, you know, communities that we know really well. And at this point, we're still beating Google. So I'm not saying that that's the way it'll always be, but right now I feel pretty good about, you know, the skill and expertise and just like general humanness that we can bring to a job that AI is not able to do yet.
I bet there's a lot of Kansans that, like, even the story about Chick-fil-A, that might unnerve them a little bit. Like, oh, sure. I didn't think of that. Like, I can be tracked by the things I like on Facebook. Like,
oh, yeah.
So, you know, I think my personal opinion is that, yes, some elements of that are scary, but some of them are also understandable. You know, how would you speak to somebody who brought up that kind of concern?
Sure. Well, so the story that I've had this discussion with my family for a long time because my parents were like, that's really creepy. I'm like, well, I grew up in the day where during the summers we watched Price is Right at 10 o'clock every day. Like it was the thing to do to pass time until the afternoon when you went outside to play. And, you know, as a 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, none of the ads that played during the commercial breaks of The Price is Right were targeted to me, right? The only time that I would see ads I was excited about was Saturday morning cartoons because back in that time, that was the only time you could see cartoons. We didn't have cable. There was no, you know, Nickelodeon, Disney Plus, whatever. And so, like, I would have to sit through Metamucil and adult underpants, you know, for leaks and all of these ads that were, frankly, like, one, a little bit educational in ways that I was not, like, prepared for. But
yes, like Metamucil.
Yeah, they were totally boring to me, right? And like that would have been so much more engaging if it had been something that had been targeted towards me. And so if I'm going to be on the internet, like wouldn't I rather see things that I am potentially interested in and add benefit and value to my experience? Or do I want to be seeing a lot of adult underpants? And while I'm old, I'm not that old yet, right? I'm still not that audience.
We all know that Facebook's listening to us right now. So all of us are going to have adult underpants on our feed later.
I'm sorry. My apologies. Yeah, but like my brother's 8 years younger than me, and he's like, oh yeah, no, I would much rather you give me an experience that is in line with my interests. And it's funny because I've not gone to look now, but 5 years ago, I went out to look at sort of Google's privacy settings. And they would, if you weren't logged in, but they had a browser history, they would basically make some assumptions about you based off of what you're looking at on the internet. And so I went to look and I was like, oh gosh, yeah, I was probably in my mid-30s. So this is maybe 10 years ago. I was like, this thinks I'm a dude in my mid-40s that likes tech and sports. And I was like, I mean, it's sort of right, but also, I'm not a guy.
Stereotyping.
And so I changed the settings and suddenly my entire online advertising landscape changed. And I'm getting like Coach purses and, lifting bras. And it was one of those where like I kind of suffered through that for a week. And I was like, yeah, no, actually, I really prefer the other. I'm going to go back. You cannot be on the internet unless you're willing to pay for it if someone's not subsidizing that through ads. So why not make that ad experience the best it possibly can be? And some of that is contingent on ad buyers, like doing a good job and really thinking through strategically the placements that they're making and not just doing like the big bulk, hey, we're gonna buy the Price is Right and hit everybody with this thing that's really more for a very specific audience. Nowadays, I have these experiences. We don't listen to like a lot of traditional radio, but when we do, and you hear them talking about like erectile dysfunction sort of stuff and the blue pill, and my 9-year-old daughter's asking me about it, and I'm like, I wish we were not listening to this right now. I don't want to have that conversation because it's not, like age appropriate. So I kind of wish that I had been listening to something where they would have maybe had ad targeting that was more suitable for my family environment.
I kind of want to backpedal here. You mentioned AI and websites. We had this conversation. I brought it up to Gus a couple weeks ago on how SEO has been big for years. Search engine optimization, where you're writing in a specific language to hope that your clients or your customer base is putting those exact phrases into Google. Can you go into a little bit of detail on how AI changes that specific thing?
Yeah, so AI is really impacting the search engine optimization side of things in that now AI is spinning out content really, really quickly. And the thing where I think that this will all ultimately go is that as we get into the world of AI agents, where I'm no longer going out and visiting websites, I am having this chat with my AI assistant, and it's going out and retrieving this information and bringing it to me. We're going to see that websites like SEO, I think, isn't going to change in that it's still going to be important that you've got the content that's going to like inform whatever it is that's out on your site, like what you're about. But SEO is going to be more for that AI agent to know, so that when Gus is having the conversation with his assistant, it brings back the right information about my brand, my website. And Gus may never actually come to my website. And so we're starting to see like the beginnings of that, where now people are, from their SEO standpoint, they're not just writing for what my prospective target audience be searching for so that I can make sure that I'm ranking. It's now, what might that AI agent be looking for? How can I make sure it's like super obvious what we do, what our value proposition is, so that as they're having this chat back and forth, my stuff is what's being plugged from ChatGPT and not my competitors or something that's just, completely erroneous. Because what I hope as society gets more used to AI, we start to really tap into a little bit more critical thinking about like, that maybe seems a little bit off. And we look for the source and we go out and read, because there's still a lot of hallucinations in the AI world where they just like make stuff up. That's why I was like, oh, please give me something that's like great and fantastical that I can be like, I would wish I did that. But no, that
was all fairly accurate, and it cited its sources. So yeah, sorry to disappoint.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like that's the future of, I think, where SEO is going. It is a space that I would say probably had the biggest impact with ChatGPT becoming much more accessible for folks to use and more common. But it's going to touch everybody and what they do for their, careers in one way or another. And so as a mom, I'm like, how do I give my kids the tools to have really successful, like adulthood and careers? And the biggest thing that I can tell them is like, ChatGPT is great. Like AI is great, but also it is not always the truth. You need to be able to really think through, does this make sense? Does this line up? You need to go fact check stuff. Don't take, just like I was telling my son before, don't take the first search result as like the gospel truth, because I can tell you for a fact, all it is the highest bid. I can make you the first search result and you can just spout pure lies. If you're willing to put enough money behind it, I mean, that is the way the internet works. Now, would anyone feel good about that? No. But we also know that is the way a lot of people have kind of positioned their platforms, is by just pushing money behind it and getting out in front of topics. Question everything, because you have a brain. That's what it's there for.
We were doing a new website for Feely, I don't know, a couple of years ago now, I guess, a year and a half. And we were kind of being guided that, we needed to really design with SEO in mind. And I felt like we had this choice of like, well, we can either talk to our customers or we can talk to Google and SEO.
Yes.
And I felt like there was not a lot of overlap in what those two audiences wanted or needed. And so I felt like a lot of the stuff for SEO is just mush. It was just like mindless
just
words, Kansas video production, Central Kansas video production. Yeah. And I guess part of me is hopeful that AI might actually be able to merge those two things back together or get them closer, so that we're not having to speak so much to two audiences. In a way, we're still speaking to our consumer. It's not just about the ranking, it's about the actual meat of what our website is about. Yeah, I think
that's exactly where it's going, is that it's going to be, you're going to have to be able to talk in ways that those AI agents pick up and understand, but it's going to really go back to delivering, what your unique positioning is to them, because that's ultimately who you're going to still be talking to. You're just going to have to do it through this robot guy, girl, they, I don't know.
Well, we're going to take one more break and we'll be right back. Want to spread your organization's message across Kansas? Consider becoming a sponsor. Ask a Kansan has a unique focus on Kansas and its people. By sponsoring our podcast, your organization can reach people from Canaredo to Kansas City, Wichita to Washington, and all the great places in between. We have a variety of sponsorship packages available to fit your budget and needs. For more information, visit askakansan.com/sponsorships or call us at 785-571-9507. Welcome back. See, I always have a question and then I say welcome back and then I forget the question.
I have noticed that to be kind of a running trend.
Yeah, it is a running trend. Anyway, so go, Gus, because I forgot it again.
There's a lot of doom and gloom about AI, and I think it's well earned. But I also think there's a lot of reasons for hope, and for what positive things. So, as a Kansan, as a person who lives in or near our state's capital, are there any things on the horizon that you're excited about that AI could help Kansans make their lives better? And it may not be the first question for me to ask, but I'm curious your perspective.
I mean, I think like let's put our tourism hat on, right? Like a lot of people don't necessarily think of Kansas when they think of places that they want to go to. But there are so many fantastic communities and attractions in Kansas. And I think being able to go out to, your AI assistant and being like, hey, Siri, put together an itinerary for this weekend. If Kansas communities can really lean into that, I think that offers a lot of opportunity for communities and events that don't necessarily have large budgets to maybe make a giant advertising splash to still really be known. Because, some of Kansas's best gems aren't things that have giant budgets behind it to be able to be promoting, and even as Kansans, we don't often know what's going on, 2 communities over. And so I think if we can use AI to really take the things we're doing and kind of take them to that next level so that it's more accessible to folks and it's more likely for them to find out about it, that would be tapping into the best of things. And then not specific to Kansas, but in general, there's so much potential for what AI can be doing for research and for medicine. And as a person who, as of yesterday, am 1 year removed from having a kidney taken out, I have been looking at some studies where they are trying to use AI to go in and use some of my tissues to be able to regenerate my own kidney.
Oh, wow.
So that in the future, if I get to a point where I have to have I wouldn't necessarily need to get a transplant of someone else's kidney, I could get a replication of my
You can grow your own kidney.
Yeah.
Again.
And so then I'm not bound to taking antibiotics for the rest of my life that keeps my body from rejecting this, transplanted organ. As a person with 1 kidney, I'm like, oh, that would be great.
Wow. Sorry, one more thing, and then I'll get out of your way. Talking about tourism, there's something interesting that happened the last couple of weeks in Abilene, just down the road from Salina here, where the Smoky Valley Railroad, I think that's what it's called, was named the 5th or one of the top 5 scenic railroads in the country.
Yeah.
And I can't help but, one of my Facebook friends commented on this post and was like, laugh out loud, what? And I think there's a little bit of that in my opinion is just Kansans are sometimes down on their state, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, is to make them proud. But I think there's also maybe a little bit of that AI thing showing up of, did this journalist, were they somehow aware of this, or did an AI alert them to this?
Yeah. Well, and I think as you have people that are out trying to come up with unique content, working on podcasts and coming up with content, we are looking for things that are going to be unique and not the same thing we've all heard over and over. I was listening to a podcast today where Matt Pavarnik, who had been the CEO of Greater Topeka Partnership up until 2 weeks ago, he was talking about, the folks that grow up in a community, if they don't ever leave and they just stay there, if people are born Kansans and they don't really travel, they don't get outside, it's really easy to not like where you're at because you don't have that appreciation of traveling around and being like, hey, everybody has potholes. Or, you go to the Missouri side and you're just like, whoa, our potholes are so much better than this. I think that's just sort of human disposition of you really don't know what's out there if you've never left. And so you assume the grass is greener there. Kansas is just, it's so amazing. We have a foreign exchange student from Italy living with us right now. He goes back tomorrow.
We have
an intern from Italy.
is also So please continue.
I asked him the other day. I said, "So what are you going to miss the most about Kansas?" And he's like, "Well, the people." And I'm like, "Well, that's good. I'm your host, Mom. I'm glad you're going to miss me. I feel like I really, didn't do a good job the last 5 months." But he said, "I'm really going to miss." Just these big open spaces with straight roads and it not being congested with vehicles. And I was like, oh, do you not have straight roads in Italy? I've never been. He's like, if you're in like a city or a town area, not really. Like you might from like, city to city. He said, but then there are so many cars that you're really trying to navigate traffic. You're not able to take in sort of the awe of like, look at that giant sky. And like we've had the most unbelievable spring.
Oh, yes.
Right? Like the colors are popping, everything's blooming like at, peak value. And he's been able to be here for all that. And it's one of those where I'm like, oh, buddy, you picked a great year.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't have promised this for you. But that I think he said he'll always remember. And, that's one of those things where as a person that's driving down these roads all the time, like, I'm like, it takes 15 minutes to get there. For where I live, it takes 15 minutes to get anywhere. But after having done a lot of traveling, it's like, it's only 15 minutes. And it's like the most beautiful 15 minutes of the day sometimes because it's full of all of these, great pops of color and these beautiful landscapes. And, Kansas just has a lot going on that we need to be more proud of. And when we voice that pride, we'll get others to take interest and want to come. Because when people come to Kansas, they always find something. Oh, I couldn't believe how friendly everyone was. Oh, I couldn't believe how, great the air was. I couldn't believe how drinkable things that we just take for granted. But if we can help, give those a voice and bring more people here, the economic value of the tourist dollar helps everybody, right? Like we talk about taxes. If we can bring more people here to visit Kansas, suddenly our taxes start to drop. And also, I think everyone just feels better about showing off what we got because we've got a lot. We need to take a step back and get a little perspective, but we've got a lot to be proud of.
I'm going to shift gears a lot and go back to the business side. If I am a business owner and I want to learn more about buying ads and digital and all that, how do we start that? What's the budget? How much do I need to? Those are the questions we get a lot.
Sure. Well, so the best way is probably going to be to find some sort of we are getting ready, or it's not there yet. We're getting ready in June to release a digital marketing 101, 6-step guide that's going to help people try to take on this endeavor of buying ads. Because frequently we'll work with people and they're like, well, we tried it. It just didn't really work very well. And it's like, okay, well, a lot of times the first thing we put out doesn't necessarily work great, but it's digital. So I'm able to see hey, these 3 things aren't doing great, but that one's really good. Let's lean in. So I would say, be a student of the game and constantly look at what's working and lean into that. But there is no, I can't tell you that there is a budget that works because your goals, your audience, all of that plays a role. But you can do really successful digital marketing for, we've got clients that spend $250 on ads a month. It does not necessarily need to be gigantic, but that budget needs to be right sized with your audience and your goals, right? If I've got somebody that is targeting women age 18 to 55, but all over North America, that $250 a month budget, it's just not the same, right? We are just bing, a little drop of water in a giant lake. So you really need to kind of step by step walk through what is the opportunity, what are we trying to achieve, where is that audience at, and then find a digital partner that knows a little bit about a lot of digital avenues. In Kansas, so on my website, you can go out and find a social media guide that will tell you based off of, it's our 3rd year of research doing this, the social platforms that are broken down by age demographic of where people are, as reported by them, spending their time on a regular basis, right? So I've got where you can find teens and where, you can tap into that kind of data on like a nationwide scale with Pew Research. Lots of people are doing that. But what I found in my, at this point, almost 20 years of doing marketing is the Midwest isn't, we aren't doing the same things that New York and LA are doing, right?
Yeah,
like there's a little bit of a trickle down. And so like we're just starting to see sort of that, like, Facebook still really works for a couple of age demos, but we are starting to see that there are some younger age demos that are, you really need to get more into the TikTok, Snapchat. But shockingly, in the data that just came out, the regular use of Facebook amongst teens has actually gone up compared to last year in Kansas.
Really?
Yeah, I think, and I would need to sit down and really look, because we also can toggle back and forth between like, did they report that they live in a rural area or in a metro? But like if you think about kids that are in like rural communities, there's just not as much exposure. Sometimes internet is a little bit, more sus. They aren't able to stream videos as nice and cleanly. And so there are still people that are getting on Facebook, mostly on the Instagram side of things. But yeah, the number of my son that's 16 does not have actually I take that back. He started his first Facebook profile like 2 months ago because of yearbook. I was like, why do you need a Facebook profile for yearbook? But he has so many friends that are on it. They don't post. They use it totally different than the way that I use it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We so for the summer we have 2 interns every year, and one of them is our marketing intern who's in the room. So I'm going to talk about Austin here. When we were onboarding, I said, "Well, do you have a Facebook account?" He goes, "I only use it for Marketplace." And I was like,
for sure.
That makes a lot of sense. And I was like, well, you got to figure out your login because we got a Facebook page.
That's funny.
But yeah, it's just very different. So, well, thanks for your time today. Do you have any more questions?
No, I think this was really wonderful. I appreciate we've kind of talked about several different things, and love to have you on again. And as we continue to kind of uncover AI and its effects on our world, I love your perspective. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us for that interview with Alissa. I really enjoy her just because she's kind of like a role model for me. She's a mom who's been working. She's got kids in high school and middle school, and my kids are still really young. So like, I resonate with her a lot about trying to find that balance between work and home. But also as someone who has built their career through just smarts. She's just one of those people that gets it, and it's really cool, especially with everything happening in AI and her views on that, and kind of going from there. So
at Feely, if you don't already know, Ask a Kansan is a production of Feely Creative, which is our video production business here in Salina. And one of the things we've said since the beginning of Feely is that we're never happy with the status quo. We're going to continue to reinvent ourselves as we go forward. And I think one of the ways that we align well with Cohort and with Alissa is her ability and desire to keep reinventing herself. And Cohort's, if they're going to stay relevant, they have to constantly be looking for what the next new big thing is. And so we obviously try to do the same thing. And I think it's powerful hearing that from her.
Yeah. And she mentioned a lot about her team figuring stuff out, because stuff changes, especially in the digital world with ads and all the different platforms. So I'm fascinated how they adapt to that. And she's like, yeah, we just figure it out. And I'm like, that is way more bandwidth than I think I have to try to figure something out.
Totally. Well, if anybody out there has any questions they might want to ask Alissa, you could comment those below the video or comment it on the podcast, and we would be happy to send those to her. And in a future episode, maybe we could give you some answers.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the other elements? Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay. Well, my wife and I and her family, we went out to Colby, where she's from, and we went to Picking on the Plains.
Okay.
Which is a bluegrass festival.
Not where I thought that was going. I thought picking stuff. Like, I don't know, fruits, vegetables, cherries, strawberries. I don't know. So
bluegrass has the banjo, it has the guitar, it has the mandolin.
It's lots of picking.
These are all instruments that require picks, or they can require picks. So
I like the little finger picks. You know what I mean? Banjos. Yeah. Those always fascinate me.
Oh yeah, it was a great time. It was real, probably the nicest weather you could expect this time of year.
It was beautiful this weekend.
It's beautiful. So we spent some time there, and then on the way back, we stopped in Sternberg and met with some of Hannah's friends at Hayes. Mm-hmm. That was the first time I'd ever been through the Sternberg Museum.
Really?
Can you believe that? Yeah, it was a great time. I had no idea. I'd driven by that dome half my life, but I'd never actually gone in. So if you're like me and you've driven on I-70 west or east and have always looked there but never stopped, I'll tell you it's worth a stop. It's worth a visit.
I feel like we've talked about the Sternberg Museum in like a very early on episode on how that museum is named the Sternberg Museum because the Sternberg family, they had like generations of archaeologists.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There's the namesake guy is
paleontologist.
There you go. Yep.
One of the ologists.
We're not real sciencey people here on Ask a Kansan. I did want to point out one of our pictures in the background of our set has some really cool. I'm sure Marilyn can throw a picture of it on.
Oh yeah, I never even noticed that before.
Just driving through Kansas, I bet a lot of people don't realize the rich rich fossil record that we have here in our state. And if you're at all interested in that, the Sternberg is a great place to go. I didn't know they had live animals. They have a whole bunch of
I didn't know that.
Giant tortoises, and it was a great time. Also, when we were there, they had a rattlesnake exhibit with maybe 30 different kinds of rattlesnakes. I am terrified of. There's also a shrunken head. If you're into that, if you're into shrunken heads,
I want to know the process of a shrunken head.
You don't.
No,
you can look it up. There's a like. Is that
even legal?
No.
Oh.
It'd be manipulations of human remains. I'm pretty sure it's not legal. Skylar's losing it.
Okay, Skylar's losing it. But side note, sorry, this is ADHD full on. I stumbled across a new way of cremation where it's water-based. So basically your body breaks down as it would in the ground through some form of osmosis thing, and all that's left is the bones, and then they powder the bones. So the cremations are actually pure white from the bones instead of an ashy looking color. It's a thing.
Creamy. Sorry, I've made everyone in the room uncomfortable. As only I can do.
Anyway.
Well, let's play another game of Where in the Rectangle.
Great transition.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's just brilliant. We're so good at transitions here on Ask Kansan. So, Sydney, could you please tell me where Merriam, Kansas is?
Where?
Merriam.
Oh, I should know this.
We will have listeners that will be, they definitely know. There's a lot of people that know where Merriam is. I'm curious. Any of you know where Merriam is? No.
I feel like it's a trick question because it should be in Marion County, but
yeah, I think
I've heard of Merriam, Kansas
as
before.
we were discussing with Sedgwick the other day, you and Wichita.
Yeah.
You can't always guess where things are based on the name of the county.
I know this, but I don't.
Take a stab in the dark. I may give you a hint this time too if you don't.
My stab is going to be Gove County just because I'm going to go against my gut.
That's a guess. Okay. All right.
By the way, Gove County is here. Schloop.
I feel like you're getting worse.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Was I right with Marion? I should have kept my Merriam County.
Actually, no. I said Johnson County right here. It's now a suburb of Kansas City.
trick question.
Make sure we get that on camera. So you may know Miriam because it is the place where IKEA is located in Kansas City. So today's journey takes us to a town that's easy to miss but harder to forget. Tucked inside the sprawl of Johnson County, just south of Shawnee and west of Mission, is a little city that played a big role in American history. You've probably driven past it a few times, maybe to IKEA, maybe on your way to a Royals game.
I don't think you pass.
Unless you're, that doesn't happen.
I don't think you pass it going to a Royals
But anyway,
game.
1949.
ChatGPT lied to you.
Yeah, it's true. Long before the Swedish meatballs and Target runs, something remarkable happened here. So let's set the scene. It's the late 1940s and America is booming. Suburbs are spreading like fresh concrete. And Johnson County is transforming from farmland to family land. Miriam is growing fast, thanks in part to the old interurban streetcar line that once connected it to downtown Kansas City. As a fan of trains, I am obsessed with streetcars and this era in history when we had a lot of trains. So people are moving in, schools are being built, and much of the country at the time, like much of the country at the time, those schools are segregated. But here's the twist: the kids weren't. In much of Johnson County, black and white families lived in the same neighborhoods. Their children played together, visited each other's homes, and, get this, even went to the same elementary school until 5th grade. That's when black students were required to transfer to a separate, quote-unquote, Negro school. Let that sink in. You're 10 years old, you've sat next to your best friend in class for years, then suddenly you're told you have to leave, not because you moved, not because of your grades, but because of your skin color. And one father had enough. His name was Oliver Brown.
Oh.
No, just kidding. Wait, sorry, wrong case. That one's coming a few years later. The man we're talking about today is Webster Porter Webb, a Miriam resident and father of 3. In 1949, Webb and a group of black parents in the Miriam area brought a lawsuit against School District 90, which operated the local schools. Their claim that the district was spending public funds, including taxes from black families, to build a new whites-only school while maintaining substandard facilities for black students. If this sounds familiar, it should. This case was named Webb versus School District number 90, and it made its way to the U.S. District Court, where it got a hearing in front of Judge Arthur J. Mellett. And in a landmark ruling, the judge sided with the parents. The court found that the district's use of public funds to support segregated schools violated the Constitution, specifically the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. And this was 5 years before Brown versus Board of Education, 5 years before Thurgood Marshall's famous arguments in Topeka. In fact, when Brown reached the Supreme Court in 1954, Webb versus School District 90 was one of the cases cited in the decision. This Kansas suburb, helped lay the groundwork for ending legal segregation in public schools nationwide. So I think you don't get that when you go to IKEA, that suburb has such a rich history, and that Kansas has played a pretty important role in civil rights, but not in the same way that maybe you see in other states, just in the courts, especially between this case and Brown, which was, the landmark case really that broke things wide open for ending segregation. So switching gears just a little bit. The thing I love Miriam for is that it is home of one of the best stringed instrument stores in the area. Actually, you'd have to go to St. Louis to get another stringed instrument store this good, and it's called Kansas City Strings, just across the railroad tracks from IKEA. So that is where in the rectangle for today. Today, I should say, Miriam is a city of about 11,000 people, and it has a growing trail system, a busy community center, and a wonderful park called Antioch Park. So if you're ever in IKEA, get out, explore a little bit.
I have yet to be to an IKEA.
Oh, you're missing out.
I know.
The meatballs, the lingonberries, the flat pack Scandinavian simplistic furniture. Yeah. What I say about IKEA is you go in there thinking you're just going to buy a few little things, and you're like, oh, a new pair of scissors. And you pick that up, and half hour later, you're ready to check out. It's more like an hour later. And all of a sudden those little things have added up and it's like $150. And you're like, how on earth did I spend that much money?
Granted, the IKEA scissors are next level. We have them here at the office.
Pretty much everybody has a pair of IKEA scissors, and
they're
like shears. They're serious scissors.
They would definitely be what's the word I'm looking for? If we were to make an IKEA clue, it would be one of the weapons.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So it was Sven in the cafeteria with the shears.
With the shears. What other places are there? Oh, you could actually, because you could do like isn't there like a bed area?
Oh yeah.
And Merlin makes a good point. Do you have to assemble them?
Scissors? No,
you do not.
The scissors.
Not the scissors.
Practically everything bigger than maybe this coffee table, you do have to assemble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you could do like the bedding. You could do like the bed area, kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
You could really have the whole technically.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to see like a murder mystery play out in an
IKEA.
Mm-hmm.
But what other weapons do you have? You have the shears. Do they have? Well, there's like there's probably knives for the kitchen area.
There's all sorts of stuff in there.
I'm sure there's candlesticks. We could make it pretty close.
Maybe frozen meatballs could be one.
Ooh, yep.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of the actual frozen meatballs, it's like a frozen meatball launcher.
There you go. One of the fun things about IKEA is the training people that go there to train other people how to work there. They are from Sweden, and so they have great names like Olga. Yeah. Let's see if I can come up with a Sven and Oli joke for you. So if you're not familiar in Sweden, there's a lot of Sven, Oli, and Lena jokes. And I'm Swedish, so hence the reason why I'm sharing this joke. So Sven, you have to say it with a little bit of an accent. So if you detect that, that's what I'm trying to do. So Sven Sven and Oli, they like baseball. You know, they're playing the baseball, and one day, not at baseball practice, Sven dies, and he goes up to heaven, and a couple days later he comes back down and he says, "Oli, I've got good news and bad news about heaven," and Oli says, "Oh really? Well, what's the good news?" And Sven says, "Well, the good news is there is baseball in heaven," and then Oli said, I've lost track of the names now.
Oli and Sven?
Yeah, well, Oli says, okay, well, what's the bad news then? And Sven says, well, you're betting on Thursday. Thank you for laughing at my...
That was pretty good.
Yeah, that's one of like 3 jokes I can remember. So
you kind of sound more Canadian, though.
Well, you know... No, the Canadians, we got some shared ancestry in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have something
I have
else?
one thing, if Marlon wants to bring it up. It's another TikTok that I found. So, these guys are walking across the U.S.
That is the fanciest, what do you call
fanny pack?
Fanny pack I've ever seen.
Yeah. So these guys, I'll let it play out here. Maybe. Oh, the volume is turned off. There we go. You got it. I have faith in you. You can do it.
We can read too, so it's not too.
We have now walked across Delaware, Maryland, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, and now, welcome to Kansas, baby. Everybody's been talking about Kansas. It's going to suck. We're going to walk right through it. Let's do this.
So, there's like 3 other videos.
1 second.
So there's like 3 other videos of them as they're walking across Kansas. And they're like, yeah, at least they have trails here in Kansas because they found some trails. And the comments are all like, you should walk through here. You should walk through there. I'm like, these guys aren't making a detour. They are on a mission and they're going.
Do you know where they're headed?
They're heading to California.
Okay,
like they're literally going across the state.
Whole state.
Yeah. So this past weekend they were in Kansas.
And they're already through it?
Yeah, they're already through it.
They must be running.
So they started. I'm pretty sure they're already through it. I guess let me look. Now now you have me questioning my readiness here. Here, hold on. I can do this. I know I can.
What I tell people pretty often is if you're driving through Kansas, you're more than likely on I-70 if you're going east to west.
Mm-hmm.
And I-70 was cut in the least elevation change possible. They're trying to get across the state, without having to build bridges or move as much earth as they could. And so you don't have to get far off the interstate to see a completely different landscape. There's some beautiful areas, like for instance, north of Goodland and Colby, there's this area where there's these breaks, these hills and cliffs. And if you think Kansas is represented by I-70, I mean, there's some beautiful things there too, but there's a lot to see.
Well, I totally misspoke. 20 hours ago, they were in Ottawa, so they're not even remotely close.
Well, good for them. I mean, Ottawa. Mm-hmm.
They're in Ottawa. So they went from Lewisburg to Ottawa.
Yeah. Lewisburg has the cider mill, which is really nice. Our coworker Tim used to work in Ottawa.
Yeah. So that's where they're at.
Cool. We'll have to track their progress and see if they make it. If you can provide them support, please do.
Yeah. Their handle is, let's see. Livin, Livin. They camp. So they ask strangers if they can camp in their backyards. So if you find two guys, they look probably in their 19 to, I don't know, with 25 maybe.
Fanny pack that has a thing that goes over your head too.
With some fancy equipment. They just want to sleep in your backyard in a tent, and they know that's pretty weird. So,
yeah.
Well,
I think that's about it for this episode of Ask Kansan. Hope you enjoyed. We will be back next week with another guest. We've got some really cool guests coming up on the podcast here in the next few weeks.
So keep track of our socials. We are on all of them: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. Did I miss any?
I'm sure you did, but I wouldn't know.
Oh.
All right. Thank you very much, and have a good one.